So today we're going to be repairing a front fender off a 1969 T250 Suzuki Hustler. It's been beat up, sitting around for many years, crashed. The fender is really chewed up, and we've got some welding to do on it, some plating to do on it, but everything that we're going to do today is going to be something you can do at home. You don't have to send out to have your fender replated. You can get it looking pretty close to new. Perfection, we'll see. So stay tuned. So let's take a look at the damage on this fender. As you can see, there's a lot of dents and scratches and really bad. It's been drug along the ground. The stay is in really bad shape. There's a whole lot of damage in this area here. As you can see, the stay is damaged over here. It is really damaged over here. The fender has got big dents in it. Dented over here. The chrome is gone from here. It's flaking in several places, and as you can see, it's just really in rough shape. Again, back in here, and there's also a little bent in there. And as we look down here, it is torn up pretty bad in this corner, and there's rust. So this fender is going to take quite a bit of work, and the chrome is in rough shape. As you can see, it's stained. There's a couple of good spots, and this fender's been cleaned. So we're going to have our work cut out for us. And after a bit of grinding, I got the brace separated from the little clamp, and we will get that all cleaned up and back to looking new again. And as you can see, it needs a little bit of help. Now we have to be fairly gentle doing this. We're just working it very carefully and making sure that when we hit, we hear the right sound. You can hear it hit, and it makes the proper sound. More of a thud. Things are starting to get smoother and smoother as we go along. It's still a little lumpy in here, but it's getting better. And there's still a few more little tiny dents in here from more like deep scratches, and we'll flatten those out the best that we can. Because eventually what's going to happen here is we are going to sand this down, shape the metal back into perfect shape, and then we're going to replate it with nickel. These big dents right in here, you can see it's completely deformed, so we'll work those a little bit. We're just moving around, working things. Okay, and the front fender, after all the pounding, and all the other stuff, we are now sanding off all the fine scratches and just perfecting the finish. It is not perfect yet. It still needs to be polished before we do any plating, but we need to get as many of the fine scratches as we can out of it in this front area. And it's starting to come around fairly well. So we'll keep on going until we get everything done. We'll give it a polish and we'll be back. Okay, so now we've got the fender pretty well polished up. Most of the defects are gone. We can't get all of them because the metal will get too thin, but we're in pretty good shape to be able to get this thing looking almost like new. Yeah, it's a 1969 motorcycle. It's never going to be perfect, but we can do a pretty darn good job of getting it really, really close. The front fender is in much, much better shape now than it's ever been. So we'll start to do some nickel plating. We'll be back. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is using some bright nickel plating solution, and we have a nickel anode hooked up to a power supply, and that power supply will give us 5 volts, and we've got it set for a maximum of about 2 amps. And what we're going to be doing is doing what we call brush-on plating. And I'm going to be taking these makeup pads and soaking them in the bright nickel solution, and we will be brushing it on. So we're hooked up to a power supply. We have a power supply. We're going to take our negative side of the power supply and put it on the fender. Our positive side of the power supply is going to go to our strip of nickel, and then we're going to go on ahead and soak down our makeup pads, and they'll absorb the nickel plating solution, and we wrap that around our anode here. We can now turn on the power supply, and we can start to lay down some nickel. And the way you do that is you just start wiping it on. Because what we're doing is called brush-on plating. And it's the same as regular plating, except that you can now just have this nickel strip and the plating solution, and the nickel deposits itself from the nickel strip onto your part. And so we just start rubbing it on, and you just sit there and rub it, and it will start depositing itself, and it does it fairly fast, onto our part. And the good part about this is sometimes cleanliness comes into plating. You know, you got all this preparation, but when you brush it on, you're kind of wiping off all the dirt as you go along. Okay. We've got our nickel on there. We're going to do a bit of polishing. I'll put some stuff away, and we'll be back. And we'll take a little bit of polish and start working it in and see how we did. We're not doing any buffing with the machine at this point. We're just taking a little bit of polish, getting any kind of tarnishing that was on there that the plating process kind of puts on. Nice, bright, chrome, shiny. Got a really nice look to it. We'll go do a little bit of buffing on it, and we'll see how things look. So now we're going to have to do some welding on the brackets. We've gotten the brackets off, but the brackets are almost ground through, so we're going to have to add some metal to it. So I think the best way to go about that is to use a TIG welder. I could use the MIG and spot it in, but I think the TIG I can just get a better flow going, and just because we're just filling, we're not trying to give it any strength because it's plenty strong. It just has kind of a worn out spot to it that's been ground down from a rather nasty fall. So I will weld on it for a little while, and we'll grind it and polish it and plate it and see how it all turns out. So for filler wire, we're going to just use some MIG wire that I just ran out of the MIG, and we'll go ahead and start in. Well, we have successfully replated the fender, brought it back to a very reasonable, usable look. It's not perfect, but the bike will look really, really good with it on there. So thanks for watching, and as you can see, we've been successful, and you can do this at home, because we did it here at home. Again, thanks for watching.